everyone, and welcome back to the Real Football Show, episode number 2. I am your host, Anna Middleton. Alongside me is Ryan Lam, the soccer encyclopedia insight for us today. Today, just a few things we're going to touch base on is the Premier League, the Bundesliga, the National Women's Soccer League Draft, and the U.S. Women's National Team. First, we're going to start off with the Premier League. Ryan, we're going to talk about Bruno Fernandes and the attacking situation of Manchester United. How do you feel about this, Ryan?
I feel like Bruno Fernandes is someone that Manchester United has been eyeing for like 1 to 2 transfer windows now before this. He provides very good ball aggression. I don't have the advanced statistics with me, but in Liga NOS, obviously, it's down a notch when compared to the Big 5 leagues. But his ball progression number is very good, especially with balls into the final third as well. United lack that creativity in the midfield when you have to rely on players like Juan Mata. Juan Mata's still good, but he can't produce in the level that he used to be. And the other players are Andreas Pereira and Jesse Lingard. That simply doesn't work. And that attacking situation is a little bit worrying as well, with no incoming striker, because Marcus Rashford has been diagnosed with initial stress fracture in the back, and then he refractured it in the FA Cup tie against Wolverhampton. They've been looking to bring in Joshua King back to United fold, former United teenager when in the U20s, U18 teams, but then that kind of fell through at the end. 20 million is not enough for Bournemouth. In that, it's just kind of have to let the season run through. Hope Rashford gets back, because goal scoring is something that United really direly need, and they're in a really tough situation right now. And see if Bruno Fernandes can at least bring a spark of, a breath of fresh air, just a spark for Manchester United.
Alrighty, yes. And now moving on to Liverpool, some believe are the best Premier team ever, which you probably think this. But out of the top 4, it's Liverpool, Leicester, Manchester City, and Chelsea. And why do you think Liverpool is the best out of the top 4?
I mean, they're just look at the table. It's enough to say they're above Man City right now, for 19 points, and they're above Leicester. Leicester's in 3rd place. They're 22 points above Leicester. Leicester had that rough stretch, so we're going to kind of touch on that later. But I think Liverpool's one of the most, at least tantalizing teams to watch in the Prem, especially with how they could kind of morph into different teams. Of course, they could strike you into counter very well. Salah, Mane, Firmino, everybody knows that. They could play well in possession as well. They kind of find that flow in, getting that one goal and then kind of, stopping everything else and just, be solid. That's the biggest transformation under Jurgen Klopp. I feel like it's when you look at it from a modern soccer standpoint, I feel like Liverpool's definitely one of the best teams to have ever featured in the British Premier League. When you talk about some of the classic teams 07-08 United with Cristiano Ronaldo, Carlos Tevez, and Wayne Rooney. You could go back to your treble teams, your early day Uniteds from Cantona to Peter Schmeichel, to all those players, and even some of the Mourinho Chelsea teams. But I feel like this is a very complete team, as much as I hate to say it as a Manchester United fan. This Liverpool team really stands out stylistically, especially adapting to modern football and what we believe in as a soccer community. Yeah.
Alrighty, so we won't tell our friend Chris Keating you said that, because he is a Liverpool fan.
Let's not.
Moving on to Arsenal. Now they're 10th so far in the rankings, not in the top of the bracket. But do you believe that they are playing better even for their standing?
Yeah, the thing is that when you look at it, traditional Big 6 and all that, blah, 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 Arsenal really took a tumble. Of course, they have a quick managerial change in the middle of the season with Unai Emery departing and actually hiring former Manchester City assistant Mikel Arteta. That being said, you could see some of Arteta's ideology he learned from Guardiola or from his playing days imposed into this Arsenal team. Of course, the team really, really needs fixing, especially in the defensive side. When you think about it, Socrates Papastathopoulos and David Luiz, not a good center-back pairing. Pacing's a little bit slow. They're trying to adapt to playing 3 at the back now, especially when you can slide in Callum Chambers, a little bit of youth in that center-back position. But then that's still kind of hard. It's kind of hard to balance, and they can't during at least during at least this winter window, they can't recall anyone. They have a really good young center back, San Etienne, I believe. They can't recall him. They can't pry players like look at names like Kalidou Koulibaly or Dayo Upamecano from Napoli and Hasenboswell Leipzig as well. So like I feel like they're doing better. They're opening up the game well. They changed the new formation. They have pretty good wing backs. They need improvement, especially in the left back position. But right back, if Hector Bellerin can stay healthy, I feel like he could still be a good fit. And he also been in the club for quite a while now. Was captain against Chelsea and scored that late equalizer for that 2-2 tie. Front, they just have to solve the issue. If Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang wants to leave, then that might be a good idea because, in my opinion, Aubameyang, Lacazette, and also Nicolas Pepe, very similar players. I don't think they could coexist in the front line, at least when you look at situations with Aubameyang and Lacazette, with Aubameyang primarily featuring in the left wing and taking away from his goal-scoring prowess. In the midfield, Granit Xhaka needs to go. Mesut Ozil's been playing better in a more creative role, and he looks a little bit more alive. That's kind of important as well. But then kind of how you reshuffle it, I feel like Torreira and Guendouzi is a very good industrious double pivot, but then they're kind of similar with each other at times. That could be a struggle for Arsenal. I can't believe I'm spending that much time talking about Arsenal in the first place, but like this team has some future. Of course, Emile Smith-Rowe, players like Bakary Saka, they could come into their own as they have the time to kind of like roll with it in this rather disappointing season. But you know, in those situations, it's all also across all sports. You look at something like Golden State Warriors. If you have that like dip, just like take the time, develop some young players who could feature for you down the line.
All right, now Leicester and the Spurs, how are they going? What's going on? What are your ideas here?
All right, let's talk about Spurs first. How about that? Spurs, I think, is coming in at number 6 right now, out of a European competition position. But then they made some big moves in the transfer market, which we'll later touch about. Steven Bergwijn would be a good transfer from PSV Eindhoven. My friend Steven doesn't really like it, but like the thing is that of course, he is a very talented player linked with multiple Big Six clubs that are big European clubs. 22 out of PSV Eindhoven. He featured in the Dutch national team, which is really good right now. I think they're one of the favorites to Euro 2020. He is the type of player that could contribute, and he's a dangerous winger. And you could kind of like Spurs, of course. You could talk about their aspirations being like title challengers, win cups and tournaments. But then in this position, they could have Bergwijn. If they get good enough, keep him, and he blossoms to the start. If not, his value is very likely to continue to go up. And kind of you could do a Gareth Bale thing and sell him off for like 80 million, 100 million, make some profit, use it to reinvest in other young players to kind of like keep the wheel going. Getson Fernandez is also a good guess. Could get a loan fee for 4.5 million. That's from Benfica, one of the bright young center midfielders coming in from Liga North as well. Kind of, Liga North, of course, different level, can go a little bit up and down. As mentioned with Bruno Fernandes, former examples including Nani and Anderson, also to Man United in that summer around 06, 07, 07, 08. I feel like Getson has that physicality to kind of like adjust to Premier League because that's always the hardest thing. Premier League is extremely physical, but then you never really know until you play a game. Say if you could learn something like they're like similar like age, but if you could work well with Tonji and Dombele, that could be a good get. Christian Eriksen leaving, he's not featuring that much. People know he wants to leave, and the fun thing is actually Daniel Rose. They might need the left back depth, but Jose Mourinho might trust Ben Davies because he likes an asymmetrical wing back pairing. So if you push Aurier up, Ben Davies can very, very capably come back and fill in the other spot as the more defensive fullback. But then also, Ryan Sessegnon, 18, 19-year-old, came from Fulham earlier in the summer. Could use some time for him to develop as well. Tottenham does not have a lot going on for them right now. If they could kind of stay competitive, which Mourinho is very capable to do, and try to vie for a European position, they could allow some of these young talents to kind of blossom and see where it goes from there. As for Leicester City, I know you have some bad experience with Leicester City, but then the thing with Leicester is that, okay, after that great season where they won the Premier League, they have been having a problem with squad depth, from Khalil Ranieri to Craig Shakespeare and likes now, well, Brendan Rodgers. Uh, they've really like stuck on playing the same 11 players in a lot of the games because, well, they don't often have to worry about European matches and stuff like that, especially in this season as well. Um, and now some of the problems were coming up because like 2015-16, if I'm not mistaken, I try to not get my years mixed up. That's a perfect storm. Everyone stayed healthy. Like the same 11 players played the bulk of the games, but then in this season, you see Jamie Vardy had a little bit different form, also pulled a hammy with around the Christmas and early January and into January, so that's been kind of hampering his form. You see a backup striker, it's Kelechi Iheanacho. That's a little bit worrying of a situation. James Maddison has been a little bit up and down. I don't think he's going to worth that big transfer at the end of summer, unless the price goes down to around 40 million. That would be a suitable range for him as of his form. But then there's still a lot of bright spots. Wilfred Ndidi has been really good. I think he's back in the lineup now. He should continue to boss the midfield all on its own, while players like Yuri Tielemans and the aforementioned Madison could create more. Ricardo Pereira is one of the best wingbacks in the world right now, probably among your ranks of like Trent Alexander-Arnold and players like that. Ben Chilwell, very good. The whole team's there. Just need to get healthy, weather the storm a little bit. Brendan Rodgers have done that in occasions. Let's see if Leicester can end up with a Champions League spot.
All right, finishing up the Premier League. Today is the last day of January 2020. So let's look back on the January transfer market.
Yeah, I think the biggest move, of course, Spurs. They need some shuffling around. Of course, Jose Mourinho came in mid-season as well as Mauricio Pochettino was fired. Needs some time to build his own philosophy and legacy and everything in between. Because face it, like this is his last chance, and now they try he's trying to ship in quality players, but then just like hopefully not kind of ruin them as Mourinho could be prone to do with his like consistent I guess telling off and like negativity in general. Also signed Giovanni Lo Celso to a permanent deal after his loan from Paris Saint-Germain as well. The Premier League's a little bit quiet in general. They're a little bit quiet in the transfer market. Bruno's definitely the biggest deal, but like for now, I just think like teams that needed holes to fill, they can't really do much, and like their hands are also a little bit tight because not trying to spend a lot of money, especially a few teams with new coaches coming in. They just need to kind of work things out before committing to something, and that would be in the summer where the market's way more open and teams are way more likely and way more open to part with some of their players for big money.
Yeah. All right, that was finishing up the Premier League. Now let's move on to the Bundesliga. This is going to be a quick little short segment. Erling Braut Haaland, which I am probably totally messing up the pronunciation of that name. But how do you feel about him?
Erling Braut Haaland, like he continued his impossible goal scoring rate, I would just say. First two games for Borussia Dortmund, came on against Augsburg, scored a hat-trick as a sub to turn that game around, and he kept on, scored two goals the next game, and in 59 minutes, he has already contributed 5 goals, and as a teenager, that could be, like, you can't really ask for more. It made Dortmund a little bit more complacent, not really complacent, but like better, having more leeway with their transfer policy, as they could ship Paco Alcacer to Villarreal for 23 million. So they have more options up front. Now, the team's still working very well. Personally, I want Dortmund to win because they're a very, very fun team to watch. As long as you're like good with the heart attack going up and down, like the Augsburg game, that was one of those. But then when you have talent like, your Torgan Hazard, your Julian Brandt, he's one of my favorite German players right now, and also like Marco Reus, still there, Mario Götze, still there, Jadon Sancho. You don't know if they're selling him as well. Just like this team is so fun, and like
they're so fun to watch.
Yeah,
yes.
But then the defense is also fun to watch in a way that they screw up a lot. But then it happens. They're currently 3rd in the league table, I want to say. Yeah, 4th. They're right behind Mönchengladbach, 2 points behind Gladbach. Bayern's number 2, Leipzig's number 1 right now. So let's see how the season could play out. But yeah, I really enjoy Dortmund, and I think Erling Braut Haaland should be featured in a big role in this. What with his finishing, he's not a traditional poacher. He could run to balls as well. He's very mobile for a big guy.
All right, and you said Bayern is looking up their second place, I believe, in the table. What is going on with that?
The thing is that I recently read an article. I think it's on The Athletic about Leon Goretzka, who has really been improved. They have made some moves as well. Alvaro Odriozola went to Bayern as a loan from Real Madrid, so that could kind of help with the depth at the right back position. But then they have I feel like the midfield pivot is very, very, very productive in players like Thiago Alcantara, Joshua Kimmich, Arturo Vidal. Vidal's gone. I was tripping.
It's all right. It happens.
Yeah, Joshua Kimmich and also Leon Goretzka. A lot of moving pieces as well. If you want to put Coutinho in the middle of the park, you could also do that. They're just finding their form. Lewandowski's always been dangerous, but then I feel like they are due for a drop off, but then they kind of climb back up. After firing Kovac, I think Hansi Flick is a very good choice just to steer the team into the end of the season and see if they could actually challenge, because they're just 1 point off from RB Leipzig right now. So that could be still be possible for Bayern Munich among other teams.
Yeah. And let's talk about transfers in the Bundesliga.
Okay, so talk about Odriozola for a little bit. Dortmund gets a bolster in the midfield. They have a lot of players in the central of the park, to be honest. But then, your Axel Witsel, Thomas Delaney, Mahmoud Dahoud is on the bench. Julian Weigl actually went off to Benfica for, I think, 20 million. But then they got Emre Can who's the German player from Juventus on loan. So that's a very good look for them. I want to talk about Daniel Olmo, which is one of the better young stars and also a talented talent, taking that middle step to Leipzig for 20 million. I think he's playing in Denmark or Croatia, but he's been he was the star at La Masia, Barcelona's academy, and kind of went off to lower league and then kind of build himself up. Now he's back in the top 5, and Hoffenheim has been a big buyer as well, with Christoph Piatek from AC Milan for 27 million euros. Jakob Brun-Larsen transferring from Dortmund as well to Hoffenheim for 9 million. I mean, I kind of miss the Sandenberg deal from Genk to Sheffield as well. That's for the Premier League, but that's surprising because Sheffield's not that good, and they shelled out 26 million for one of the highly touted stars in the world. But then if you get into Premier League, you get to kind of get used to the play style, get used to the flow earlier, and that could be really helpful if, say, a club like United or Liverpool or whoever wants them. But that's kind of like a tangent, because looking at my notes, I was like, oh yeah, Sander Berge. What? Sheffield United, but oh well. Yeah.
All right, the next league we're going to talk about is La Liga, and we're going to move on to Real Madrid back on top, which I don't know about you, but that's shocking for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's very clear. It's pretty clear that the team is kind of on a downward spiral. Zidane, tries to work his magic, but sometimes it's hard. But then it feels like team has steadied the ship. Thibaut Courtois has been screwing up less, unlike Kepa on Chelsea. But then in general, it's just a good flow. Danny Carvajal's healthy. They have options in the left back. Marcelo's still pretty good. I think he had recently had 500 appearances commemorated by Real Madrid. Of course, you still have Nacho has been really good, surprisingly. He scored a goal late to win the game. One of the past games I was blanking on. But Rafael Varane, the quality is always there. All right. Casemiro, your Isco's hasn't been really featuring. Modric, your Cruz. Sometimes it's about luck, and they've been eking out some close victories as well. That's kind of how that Real Madrid team from winning all the Champions Leagues, and yeah, they're getting old, but they know how to pull one out. Those good teams, they just know how to pull one out of their behind in general, and that team could do it. And even players like Benzema has been playing better. Gareth Bale in and out, but still has his impact. And these Brazilian kids, man, especially Vinicius and the other kid, Oh my God, those are players that could really shine for the years to come.
Yeah, and now we're going to move on to Barcelona with one of my favorite players, Marco Asensio, and their struggles.
Asensio's playing for Real Madrid. I'm sorry.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Asensio's back in training after a serious injury, so that's really, really.
wow.
Yeah. That's
All
really,
right,
really good.
everybody,
I enjoy it.
just ignore everything I say from here on out, 'cause that was just a mistake. But Barcelona struggles and their new coach. What are your takes?
Okay, so Valverde finally got booted, and that's a good thing. And then, they hired the Betis coach. I want to say the Real Betis coach. Yeah, Quique Setien. They had a good result against Leganes yesterday in the Copa del Rey, but they have been struggling. Eked out the win against Ibiza in the previous Copa del Rey game. If Griezmann have not scored in the 93rd minute or something, they would have lost to like a very low level team. Just beat Granada 1-0, but then bad results all over the place. Defeated by Valencia at Mestalla. Mestalla is always hard to play. That's on the 25th. Earlier, Supercopa de España fell to Atletico Madrid, kind of exposed like the problems and magnified it. Even like earlier in the break, like 2-2 draw against Espanyol in the biggest derby in the Catalonian region. So that's not good. Like, especially when you look at the Atletico Madrid match, where I know Madeline's happy in France right now because I was talking to her about that the other when that happened. Barcelona's defense has some gaping holes. Like PK's not who he is right now. Longley, I actually like Longley as a center back, but like he's not always in top of sport. Like Barcelona they have to rely on their firepower so much. And sometimes Messi can't do it on his own. Now that Suarez is out as well, it's a very worrying situation for Barcelona. But then I feel like they kind of have the realization that this might not be the smooth season, especially now with the coaching change, with Suarez out. And they don't have that, they have Vida, yeah, but they don't really have that, industrial midfielder. They have players like, Frankie de Jong. Artur has been in and out of the lineup, which is surprising. Rakitic. Of course, a staple. Sergio Busquets is not who he is right now, and that's the thing. These very good teams sometimes are a little bit reluctant to part with some of their players, and in that process, it's just hard to maintain that level of play. With Messi's not getting any younger either, and you look at Real Madrid, yeah, they had that painful last year, especially. But then they have young players coming up. You can see that trend, like Federico Valverde and all of them. And Barcelona is just old midfielders, and that's really, really troubling. And their young players, well, they just loaned out Carlos Alenia to Betis. I'm pretty sure one of their brighter young players, and I'm blanking on the name, and Carlos Perez was transferred out. So outright sold, and they have to rely on players like Ansu Fati and Junior Firpo, and that's a little bit of a daunting situation for a club caliber like Barcelona. And just don't play Umtiti. Just don't play Umtiti. Just don't. It's not worth it. And let's see if Musa Wagi would secure a late move, because I'm hearing something about West Ham United, but you never know. So this Barcelona team, a little bit questionable right now.
Yes. And then going through the transfers that occurred in January, what do you have?
Alenia is the big one. Actually, I want to talk about Sevilla. Sevilla's number 3. They've always been in that range, striking for Champions League or at least a Europa League berth. And they have some really, really questionable. I wouldn't say questionable, but I feel like they have a problem with their transfer policy. So they have Suso in. Suso is a great player. AC Milan, kind of like a more wide playmaker instead of a traditional on-and-on winger. I feel like he could bring a very good game into La Liga with his skill. And of course, he's Spanish as well, so he doesn't really have to adapt to anything. He's been in Liverpool, I want to say, to start his career, and kind of gradually worked into a bigger role. But then it's in the strikers that questioned me. De Boer, they sold off De Boer. They sold off Chicharito, of course, to LA Galaxy, one of the biggest stars now in the MLS, especially consider his proximity in LA to Mexico and the Latino American soccer fans in that base. But then they kept Luke de Jong. Luke de Jong is their main striker option, and if you look at his conversion rates and the shots he's wasted and the opportunity he's wasted, that's not a good look for Sevilla. Like, I know they probably want that type of player who could hold up the ball and kind of march forward as well. But I don't know. I don't really like only keeping Luke de Jong as their main striker, main option for Sevilla. Of course, they have the enough quality to kind of pull out and maintain that European level. Atletico Madrid fell off. They haven't done much apart from bringing back Yannick Ferreira Carrasco. Used to play for them. I think he went to China, but still is featuring for the Belgium team. So the quality is still there. But he was loaned back to Atletico Madrid. So let's see if that moves better. And then we could talk a little bit about Paco Alcacer. Villarreal wants to bounce back up. They're 31 points right now. 3 points off the Europa League qualification spot, and 5 points off the top 4. They bring in Paco Alcacer. He's been one of the highest rated goal scorers, at least in by rate and per 90, throughout the league the past few years. Throughout the top 5 leagues, especially with Borussia Dortmund, often comes in as a sub to contribute very well. So I feel like if he could have a good role in Villarreal, who's been struggling in the striking department after Cedric Bakambu left to China to chase a bag, I feel like, especially with back to his element in Spain as well, that could be a very interesting move for Paco Alcacer to continue his career, and he's going to be pretty good.
All right, moving on to the National Women's Soccer League draft, which happened about 2 weeks ago, roughly. Ryan, you got to actually travel to Baltimore to have this experience. What was that experience like for you?
I mean, it's a little bit frantic. We're going to talk about the draft actually later, so I'm going to save it for that part. But it's a very good environment, very positive environment. A lot I was at the media row, so a lot of a lot of people that I actually already know, not they don't know me, but I look up to, I read their content that I get to speak to, and that's a very positive experience. I feel from watching old draft footage and stuff, this is one of the bigger scale drafts. There are a lot of audience members. Washington Spirit's very well represented from right around Baltimore, so it's a very good atmosphere. Especially the weird thing is that I don't know if you feel it's weird. I think me and Lions talk about it. The speech they give after they get up, that's a little bit weird, right? It's not they also it's not like the NBA draft. They also do the interview from the side, but the speech they give, they're yeah, thank you all. That's kind of weird, right? You put them in a spot like that.
I don't think it's weird. I think it's hard for especially players coming out of college to give a speech like that because they don't know where they're going. First of all, they know for a minute when they're announced, and then they got to be okay, I have to thank all these people. And I think it could be a little frantic, and maybe that's why it comes off as weird because college players aren't used to that. But moving on to the first pick from Stanford University, Sophia Smith. She went to Portland, which is not surprising. But what are your feelings with that, Ryan?
I mean, when Portland traded for the first pick, you kind of know that Sophia Smith is going there. It took a little while for the Sophia Smith to actually announces her entry to draft. I don't think it's until the very last slot.
I was gonna say I think she did it the day before.
It's the last, because okay. Here's another stupid thing I need your commentary on. The NWSL Draft cutoff, so the entry cutoff, is the day before the draft at 4. When you think about all the other sports committing to that, they need time to scout, they need time to strategize with the GMs and the team and the coaches. And the NWSL only allows basically 4 to 12. That's 8 hours. Draft starts at around 11. So 20 hours at most of time for them to plan and strategize out. Listening to interviews with some of the GMs, with even talking to Elise LeHue, they have been busting their butts off for the whole night, and then getting in early, working some of the trades. Okay, this is a Homer thing, but I really suggest you guys to listen to some of Elise LaHue's interview, like after the draft, especially with the athletic piece with Meg Linehan, who has all access to Sky Blue FC. That's a really good read about how they kind of operate and kind of like the franticness of it. But isn't that stupid? Like not having the time, like ample time for the teams to strategize.
I agree. I think they should make the cutoff even like a week earlier so they have one whole week to like strategize and everything. Now, Sophia Smith didn't declare until the last minute, but I think we all knew once she was called up to the United States women's national team that she was going to go into the draft.
Yeah. It's like kind of similar situation with Ashley Sanchez.
Yeah.
Sanchez is more of a surprise like toward like as we approach that 4 p.m. mark because Sophia Smith for basically the week before the draft, insiders or like people who had some information know that she's declaring. She just haven't like officially put the names in yet, and they haven't been up. They've probably like NWSL has probably only updated the list like twice. The initial one, the second one where like personally, of course, I cover the Penn State team where Amanda Dennis and Kaylee Reel was added to the list for the second one, and then the third one is the final one where they announced at 4 and then they take back down because they haven't added all the names in yet. So Sophia Smith's not on there. Ashley Sanchez was not on there for the one they released at 4. So I had to take the whole post down and then added it back in like later in the day. And like even for the GMs and the like official front office people, they'll find it in the box folder. Like much like Penn State uses, they also use box like of the official communications with the NWSL. So the communications and everything of the league and the operations has been a little bit frantic, not to be like the Debbie Downer or like talk down the league, but like that's not good.
Yeah. And then going off of what you said for Penn State, we're going to touch base on 4 Penn State former players now. They were former players.
But let's talk about like the draft player first.
We're going to talk about Kaylee Reel going to Sky Blue. What are your thoughts on that?
Before that, I have to preface it with a lot of, like, not a lot of things, but a good amount of things. We're thinking about it. First 4 picks, like 5 of basically the top 5 picks are moved. 4 of them are moved on draft day. Sky Blue traded down with Chicago Stars to get the 2-3, and Sky Blue gets 4-5. Chicago flipped the 2-3 to one to Portland for Morgan Weaver, the other one to Orlando for Tanner Korniak. And then Sky Blue flipped the 4th pick to Washington for Ashley Sanchez in part of the Malpew deal. When you think about let's talk about that real quick because I know you have thoughts about it. So let's review the trade with some allocation money going around. Could not determine the amount, but there's a lot of numbers falling around. But the core of the trade is 4 picks. The 4th pick in 2020, the 2 second-round picks Sky Blue has, and also the 1st pick in 2021 for Malpew, among other things, for Washington. Who do you think got the better end of that deal here?
I honestly don't know. Maybe Washington because they lost Malpew, but I really don't think Malpew is doing that bad. Mm-hmm. So I don't really know.
Yeah, but then also you talk about the Red Stars making some good moves, trading up, flipping it, getting capital, allocation money, all of that. Okay, now speaking to the Sky Blue position specifically, they got the 5th pick and they got the 11th pick early on in the draft. After all the trades, all the madness, that allowed me to, that had me changing my own, draft update that I have to write, 9 times.
You thought Kaylee Reel was going to go in, I want to say, 2nd, 3rd. Yeah.
The thing is that, okay, the funny thing is that I just kind of laugh at myself and the whole situation. The 2nd and 3rd pick, I kind of projected Kaylee Reel to go 2nd and Evelyn Vienne to go 3rd. With the 5th and 11th pick and getting a bunch of things back, Sky Blue FC ended up having both of the players. That kind of I kind of touch base with LaHue with that as well. It's kind of crazy, right? You never know how this is going to happen. And she was telling me, we took a timeout because wait, Kaylee Reel still on the block, especially thinking about Konya Plummer. Mm-hmm. Orlando probably took the UCF or UCF, I think it's UCF, center back before Kaylee Reel, and Kaylee Reel's far and beyond the number 1 defender, I want to say, in this draft, according to a lot of evaluation, not just us being homers here. Yeah. So that's kind of weird, but Reel is the type of player who could contribute right away. She was at the camp earlier, in late December, early January. She could definitely come in and contribute, play 90 minutes. You know, she's very, very, very good with the ball and on the offensive end and defensive end, and she's just stable. Like all the minutes played, all the consecutive appearances, all that. Like, I mean, we've been like first-hand witnesses of that in the final season. Never been like in the bottom 5 performers on the team, even if Penn State loses. Like, that's just unreal, and that would be a very good move. Like, she should make the jump to the NWSL pretty good.
Moving on to another defensive player for Penn State, Amanda Dennis, signed with the Houston Dash. Now, she was not a part of the draft, but she signed a little bit later on.
Like, yeah, two days ago.
This week she signed.
Yeah.
What are your opinions on the Houston Dash? Do you think she will succeed with the Houston Dash?
Yeah, the Houston Dash has a very the Houston Dash has a very stacked goalkeeper union. I think their starting goalkeeper is WNT level as well. I just have to scroll all the way back up.
It's okay.
Yeah, but like, it's the thing. Like, she could really learn from them, and like, there's not much expectation, especially for Dennis to go pro.
I like
especially in the draft.
Yeah, I like
that Jane Campbell.
Yeah,
WNT player.
I like the fact that she went to the Houston Dash. I know Houston Dash was switching up a lot of players. To me, the Kealia May.
Kealia May, to Red Stars.
To Red Stars, that was huge. I heard about that. And then when I heard about Amanda Dennis going there, I was like, okay. Like, I know they don't play the same position, everybody, but I still think Houston Dash is making some moves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely a way to look at it, of course. An opportunity is an opportunity, and Amanda Dennis gets to stay local, like at least stay in the country, unlike some other players. Ooh.
Yes, like
transition, baby.
Ellie Jean is going to Denmark. She's not going to be a part of the National Women's Soccer League, which to me was shocking. I thought she would have at least tried for the draft. And Marissa Shiva is in Spain right now.
Yeah. So, okay, let's try to get this right. Noord-Jylland. Because I was talking to a certain SID the other day, and we were talking about, Ellie, Noord-Jylland. I remember the name because they've been in the Europa League once. And yeah, I mean, that's a little bit surprising as well. Yeah, because I think she's going to the draft. Like, I thought she was going into the draft.
Why do you think she chose Denmark over the NWSL?
Pay. That's a very, very realistic thing. Of course, they rolled out with some like new financial stuff as well, better facilities, blah, blah, blah. But it's still like not comparable, in my opinion. And maybe that opportunity has already risen earlier, and that's like a safety net for her to take and like maybe try out a different experience. Pia Sundhage, Erika Dambach, Coach Dambach has been in Northern Europe before, kind of like learning under Pia Sundhage, if you remember that conversation we had. And like that might be part of like, okay, yeah, it's a pretty good experience here with the professional level and all that. Maybe that's part of like the information process that allows like Ellie Jean to go off to Denmark, and of course she'll have very good career, very good professional. Marissa Shiva took her a year, but she got to Alaves. Yeah.
Did she try to go for the NWSL at all?
I forgot if she entered the draft, but like her name's probably in the draft because like everyone could.
Yeah.
But like in the time like I follow herself as well. She's been training. She's been keeping herself fit and everything like that. I actually got to speak to her for a piece that I did for the 2015 team, especially with the ramification that championship has in recruiting and everything and like team culture. Great person. Wish her all the best in Alaves. Of course, Spain's a very good place to play at. Like, of course, the climate and everything.
Yeah.
Also nestled in the Basque region, so there's a lot of different cultural stuff going as well. Alaves is a pretty good choice, at least to kind of like get your feet wet and get into the professional game.
All right, moving back into the United States now, we're going to talk about the United States women's national team. They just got a new head coach. I cannot pronounce his last name.
Vlatko Andonovski.
There you go. Always got you for that, Ryan. Now, they played Haiti in the preliminaries this past week. They won 4-0. How much was that a shock to you, Ryan? For me personally, it wasn't.
Mal Pugh?
Oh yeah, and she wasn't in the preliminary roster.
Okay, so let's start with the performance itself first.
Yes.
Not good.
Yeah.
Not the best. Honestly, I watched the majority of it. Not the best.
Even though we won 4-0, still not
the best.
Not
but
the best.
Then Haiti played well. But hey, when you think of okay, Mr. Brightside here. When you think about it, Haiti played really well. I feel like for the Sanders, they played very well, especially suffering an early goal. I was texting another friend of mine, Alexis, and we're like, yeah, might be Thailand. But then it kind of went in stalemate until the 67th minute, 73rd minute. Wrote that script, I remember. So the thing is, yeah, it's just when you think about it, USWNT didn't play well. Haiti played pretty well. And then in the process, well, they still end up with a 4-0 win, which is a very positive thing when you could still dominate the score like that. Just looking into it, need a few kings to work out, especially Mewis and Rose Lavelle. Really not that good in that game. Hasn't been creating that much and relying on the wingers. You look at Lennon Williams, who played pretty well. Tobin Heath is out with a knock, I want to say. So I don't think he's going to play tonight against Panama at 8:30. So it's kind of that kind of bums out because I'm a big Tobin Heath fan. When you look at players like Kristen Press, who's been stepping up, Carly Lloyd's kind of still playing into that Alex Morgan role, which is hard. But let's touch a little bit about Mal Pugh. Kind of missing out. I guess it's kind of Flatco being hey, just get it together a little bit. That's the thing.
He said he was she's not being consistent enough. He put out a quote, and I don't remember where I read it, but he said he was I want her to be more consistent. So I feel not putting her on the preliminary rosters for this is kind of a push, get your act together kind of thing.
Yeah, and obviously she's got a moving situation now that if the season kicks back in, he'll be playing with Carly, so it will be maybe a different look for Pugh. And there's just a lot of things going on. Of course, you talk about we talked about last time you were giving us crap for not naming a lot of American players in the top tier of women's players, but it's kind of that. They've been so good. The expectation has been so high, and sometimes it's hard for them to consistently fulfill that and win every single game, every single tournament that they have. That's the level of success that USWNT fans expect, and that's kind of awkward and weird that sometimes they're not able to be at that tip top level. I feel okay, if they get the Panama game out of the way, the Canada matchup could be very interesting. They're very good players. Jade Riviere, who played for Michigan. Oh God, that's she scored the game-winning goal against Rutgers in the Big Ten semifinal. I don't know if you heard of it. She scored the game-winning goal against Rutgers in overtime in the Big Ten semifinals.
Yes, I watched it.
And
as I had UNC and
no, that's the Big Ten tournament.
Oh,
yeah.
Nope. Then I don't think I've watched.
No, and then they're celebrating, they're piling on, the big pile. And she got a concussion and did not get to play against Penn State.
Yes, I heard about that. No, I did. I watched that
game.
Jade
Riviere, she plays for Michigan now.
Yes,
of course, very good player,
yes.
very competitive in Big Ten as well. Jessie Fleming, UCLA, so they have a lot of quality. Of course, Christine Sinclair. How do you score 185 goals in your international career? That's just bonkers to me. Canada could prove as a threat to the U.S. in that qualification matchup. Shall they're being matched up?
I also think you have to look at the Olympic qualifiers. There's only 18 players on the roster, which is smaller than the World Cup roster. And how Mal Pugh's not in it right now, that's kind of nerve-wracking for her, especially because there's less spots available for the Olympic team.
Yeah, and but then also there's a lot of moving pieces. But because you think about it, that squad's so small, you have to eliminate some of the players. Some players might get a better look. Because, say, Crystal Dunn. Of course, he's been a consistent starter, but he could play, she could play in multiple positions. That really helps her. But, even if you look at the right back position, Sonnet's in. Emily Sonnet came in for Kelly O'Hara the other day, and Ali Krieger. You don't want to have 3 right backs in that squad when your, number of members are limited to 18. So, there might be still, some ins and outs with that. Especially, that's a qualification squad. You don't have to use the qualification squad for the Olympics.
Yes.
So like that could still go in and out if say we're at May. Season started, Mao Pu's been killing the game. She might get called back into one of the camps and everything like that and kind of like cycle through again. Because that's the thing, right?
There's plenty of time.
Yeah,
There's
US
plenty of time.
never runs out of talent.
Oh yeah.
Like even in like some recent thing, oh yeah, the draft feature I did. US never has problems in identifying talent. Sometimes it's developing them. It's just a process. It kind of just rolls on and everything. And well, now the USWNT should qualify for the Olympics by all means. Yeah, but you just have to kind of wait and see.
Lastly, we are going to touch base on Erica Dumbach, the head coach for the Penn State women's soccer team. We are going to touch base on her new position with the United States women's national team as an assistant. What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's a win-win situation. I feel like it doesn't really need, like, Penn State is a blue blood team, but you could use any boost of reputation and everything from anything. So like having a coach on that staff, really important. Really
I mean,
good.
she was up for the running for the head coach position too, so it's not surprising to me that she is an assistant.
Yeah, on top of that, it's just like it's also like, yeah, she's been there, she's done that.
Yeah.
Like when she started at Penn State, she also had that job, so like it's arguably harder for her then because she's starting to build her program and her culture and everything while still having that job, going to China, going to everywhere for the Olympics and World Cup, blah blah blah. Also, it's just that like on the United States side, they need to really, really get better with their JNT, their junior national team, and they also hired Philip Poole from Wake Forest, and having those two like collegiate coaches really allows them to look at the college system and the young players better. Laura Harvey signed to be the U20 coach, I want to say, from Rain FC from I think Utah, one of the West Coast teams, and that really improved like the looks of the JNT because like not a lot of them even live in the base that they operate in, which is weird, and like have part-time, like they're the head JNT coach as part-times. They need that boost. They need to look at the youth, especially with this golden generation. Kind of like they're going to get old. They're getting old, but they're going to get older. They need new talent to come in and replace it. Having those players and seeing Vlatko and also his assistant Ivanovic being open to having like college coaches and those who are familiar with that level of talent on the team really helps it. I feel like this is a win-win situation for reputation and also just like looking into both sides for both programs.
Moving on, we are going to do a quick hot take segment with the games going on this Saturday and Sunday, February 1st and 2nd, and we're going to talk about which teams we have winning and their odds. Starting off, we have Leicester versus Chelsea. I'm going to choose Chelsea, the away team, plus 170.
I'm going to pick Leicester here. At home game, I feel like they could hold their own. Of course, odds indicate it's pretty close. Let's move on. Bournemouth, Aston Villa. Bournemouth at home. I'm going to take Villa here. Bournemouth's lost 4 of the last 5 in the Premier League. I can't really trust them right now.
I'm going to choose Villa as well. Next, we have Crystal Palace versus Sheffield United. I have Crystal Palace winning plus 210.
I also have it. Like Sheffield's Palace is the underdog here, but Sheffield, the early season glow is starting to fade as a new team, and I feel like Palace can kind of hold their own at home at Selhurst. Now looking at Liverpool Southampton, no brainer. Liverpool minus 300, can't really even bet it on its own. Just throw in a parlay or something easy. Anfield, unless Danny Ings do something crazy for Southampton.
I agree. Liverpool, easy money right there. Newcastle United versus Norwich. I'm actually going to choose Norwich, the away team, plus 225.
I mean, Newcastle is some good results. I'm picking Newcastle here. They have that Everton tie that they salvaged at the end. They beat Chelsea the week before that, tied Wolves as well. I think they're on an upper rise under Steve Bruce, and their odds are plus 125. So, and Norwich, bottom of the league. Like, what are you even doing? But moving on, Watford, Everton, plus 170 and plus 163. Not that far apart, but I feel like Watford has a way to, they have 3 wins out of the last 5. Everton have some up and down results. I'm picking Watford here, surprisingly, at home.
I'm going to choose Everton, the away team, plus 163. Honestly, I just feel like they're going to make some magic happen and beat them. Mm-hmm. West Ham versus Brighton. I choose Brighton, the away team, plus 175.
I feel like it's a tough one. Odds are pretty close as well.
Yes.
I'm gonna pick West Ham here. I just favor like in the lower tier matchups. I favor the home team. They have 3 losses in recent year, but then Brighton hasn't won a game in 4 weeks. So that's probably how I'm looking at it. Manchester United Wolves. That's a 12:30 Eastern time kickoff here. I'm gonna pick United at home. New player, a little bit of a boost. See if he could do well against Wolverhampton, which is a pretty close match of 5-7, I believe. So I'm picking United here.
I chose Man U at this point in time, too. Moving on to Sunday's games, we have Burnley versus Arsenal. Easy game for me to choose. I have the away team Arsenal plus 105.
I'm going out on a limb here. I'm going to say Burnley. Burnley had, of course, they had 3 losses, but then coming off 2 straight wins in the Premier League. While Arsenal, 3 straight draws against Palace, Sheffield, Chelsea, and then an FA Cup loss against Bournemouth. They have to tune up. I don't think it's going to be hard to play at Turf Moor. Give me Burnley plus 270. Finally, Spurs City. Don't even really have to pick City minus 182. City's too good for Spurs, especially with all the moving pieces.
I am also choosing Manchester City to win that game as well. And that's all we have for our hot takes on this weekend's soccer plays.
Well, Premier League games, there's other games going on as well, but
Yeah, but only the Premier Leagues that we're betting on to this week. That's all we have for the Real Football Show, episode number 2. For Ryan Lamb, I'm Anna Middleton, and hopefully tune in next week or in 2 weeks.
Or however many weeks. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Thanks for listening.